Hello and welcome. I'm Patrick Curtis, your host and chief monkey, and this is the Wall Street Oasis podcast. Join me as I talk to some of the community's most successful and inspirational members to gain valuable insight into different career paths and life in general. Let's get to it. In this episode, WSO 1856 shares his path from an FLDP program and how he managed to lateral into an investment banking analyst position. We learn about his thought process during college, why he was too late, and how he managed to break in through the side door after a year in the Finance Development Leadership Program at a Fortune 500 company. Enjoy. All right, WSO 1856, thanks so much for joining the Wall Street Oasis podcast.
Yeah, no problem. Happy to be on.
So it'd be great if you could just give the listeners a short summary of your bio.
Yeah, sure. So graduated from college in the last 5 years, studied, typical background, finance, accounting, from a regionally recognized school, and started my career in a FLDP program for a large Fortune 500 company. Started there for a year and was really getting good experience on the ground in terms of day-to-day corporate finance, learning things on the business process side. And really, though, when I was in the program, I decided that I wanted to make a switch into banking. And so really the key pivotal moment for me was just kind of realizing that, 5-10 years down the road, I didn't really see myself being a finance manager, plant controller, something of that nature. I thought the idea of working on deals and being in the banking side kind of opened a few more opportunities to really help me figure out what I was interested in.
Mm-hmm.
And so what I did was really just network with a lot of alumni and just connections I had made through even my early days in my career, just to see who I can talk to make that switch. And so ultimately, through my alumni network, was able to make a jump into banking and really kind of opened up the doors for me in terms of the finance world. From day one, I really enjoyed it a lot more, just the idea of being able to work on deals across a variety of industries, as opposed to just being in a day-to-day role of a financial analyst.
Mm-hmm.
So I was in banking for a couple of years and then made the switch to more of a buy-side shop. And that's where I am today.
Awesome. Thanks for that. So let's start all the way back in kind of undergrad. Was kind of finance always kind of on the radar? Did you know you wanted to go into one of these FLDP programs, or were you trying to get into banking and just maybe you were too late, or the recruiting didn't go kind of the way you wanted? Or tell me a little bit about kind of what your thought process was kind of your sophomore or junior year. I know you're so young then, often it's crazy how early people have to start, but I'd love to just give the listeners a little bit of perspective in terms of what you were thinking back then.
Yeah, I think it is hard to look back and consider what my mindset was, but I remember at school, these programs were highly touted. It was something that seemed to be, something I could see myself going down. But again, when you're in college, you really don't know what the day-to-day is actually like. I had tested the waters and done an internship in a slightly different capacity as to what my FLDP role would entail.
Mm-hmm.
But I took the offer when I finished my internship and thought, hey, I'll give this a shot. It's a good program. There seems to be good mobility after these programs. It's not some sort of long-term commitment. I didn't see myself in a dead end exactly.
Yeah. So sorry, I was just going to say, so that internship you did, that was your junior summer?
That was actually
sophomore
summer, actually.
Okay.
And then, once I had that under my belt, had the offer, I thought, I don't really see myself going into banking. I think this is something that can be a good start. I wasn't entirely as familiar with the banking process and I know some of my friends were going through it, but for me, this was just a path that I saw seemed to have good long-term opportunities available.
Was your GPA decent? Did you try to do a resume drop for the banking? I want to get into a little bit of the FLDP, like learning more about like what that actually entails, because I think for a lot of listeners, it would really help a lot of them in terms of people who maybe don't want to do the 100-hour weeks. But just let's go back. So you said you did have some friends going through it. It's interesting. Were you dropping your resume? Was it something where you got some interviews, or you weren't getting any interviews when you dropped it?
I remember during senior year, I remember I was dropping resumes just to kind of see what the processes were like. I wouldn't say I had a standout GPA or anything like that. It was
Right.
probably on the lower end.
Mm-hmm.
So the fact that I had an offer and quite frankly, probably wasn't as attractive of a candidate as someone who'd done a banking internship their junior year.
Oh yeah, it's senior year. It's almost too late, right?
Exactly. Yeah. So
Yeah.
I figured, I'd missed the boat on those opportunities. I thought the opportunity I had in hand was a pretty good one.
Do you feel
And
like you
so,
missed so sorry to harp on it, but do you feel like you missed the opportunity because you didn't know about it, or because you dropped like you didn't get in sophomore year, or because you had already accepted to take the FLDP internship summer, junior summer? Like what was it, or is just like you just didn't get enough on-campus interviews? Because you put at your school, I'm sure there's some OCR, but it's not like you're getting flooded, right, with all these banks. So can you tell me a little bit about that?
yeah. Yeah. So I guess the best way to put it is not having a, stellar financial record, and also not really being as familiar with what the banking process would entail at the time,
Yeah.
I think was something that definitely hurt me. If I did want to go down that route, I probably would have been very open to it. It would have been very beneficial, and I would have saved myself some time, making the switch later on.
Mm-hmm. But did you enjoy
Yeah.
so your sophomore summer? You did enjoy it. It seemed like a good place to be. It wasn't a dead end, like you said. And so you're kind of, did you do it again your junior summer? Another internship there?
No. So my junior summer, I took a position at a large bank in
Mm-hmm.
more of a financial analyst type role. So thinking I wanted to maybe do, a financial analyst program at a bank.
Okay.
Considering that when I did that one, I really didn't enjoy it. I thought the fact that being in a middle or back office type role at a bank wasn't what I was looking for.
What was like the day
I,
to day, like when you got in there and actually saw it? What was it like? Because I'd never experienced that. Was it just like the type of work you're doing was just like not
yeah,
actually stimulating? Like, can you tell me about like kind of what you guys were doing day to day?
yeah, definitely. I mean, I felt like a lot of it was just running reports and kind of ticking and tying to ensure, some of the traders' P&Ls were, um, balanced, and
So
kind of
basically,
understand the yeah.
monkey work, basically. Like you're
Yeah,
basically
you could put it that way. Yeah, I mean, it was
ticking
the
and
type of
tying. Yeah, is rough.
yeah, the type of position where I didn't enjoy coming in each day, and
But is that because
having
you're
that.
an intern,
Yeah,
or like, is that because you're an intern, or was there a path in the middle office that you could be a career kind of middle office support or manage all the interns and the analysts? Was there a path potentially there?
there definitely was a path, but it's not something I thought I'd find interesting.
Yep.
And we were in some of the meetings going over, what the traders' P&Ls were like, or some of the other um, reporting cadences and things like that. It was just something I couldn't see myself getting passionate about,
Okay.
and
Fair.
really getting excited to go to work every day. I thought and I think that's kind of where I had a trigger moment of, maybe I want to do something that's a little bit more front office business type facing.
Mm-hmm.
And so switching gears, I think going back to that Fortune 500 business
Mm-hmm.
FLDP program seemed like something that would give me a little bit more business facing opportunity.
Yeah, it would be a
Um,
better step, kind of, if you did want to get to banking at some point.
yeah, or
Yeah.
not even necessarily banking. I think at that time I was all over the place, thinking even corporate development or
Yeah.
something like that. Just something where I couldn't see myself being in a middle office role, ticking and tying,
Yeah.
um, front office people's business and their work.
It's funny because,
Yeah,
I think there was a post, I can't remember who it was, famous post. Um, I think it was Heister or something on Wall Street Oasis years ago. Is like, get how to escape back office hell or something like that. It's like,
yeah,
and it was like
yeah,
some people were upset about it, but the reality is, if if you are a hardworking individual with, and you're pretty sharp, I think it can get really monotonous there. Not that banking can't get, rote and you start doing the same thing over and over again as well. I think there are very few jobs where you're creative all the time. So we can be fair, even FLDP programs, it's not like some amazing, creative job where everything changes every day. But the cool part about it, maybe you could elaborate more on this, is you are rotated through groups, right? Is that correct?
Yeah, that is correct. I think in a few of the rotational programs I remember seeing, you're getting exposure to a lot of different sides of the business,
Do you
whether
mind
it's
sharing
different.
like what you saw?
Yeah, well, I think my experience is slightly different in the fact that I didn't go through all the rotations or anything like that. But for me, I was in one of the divisions of this large company and in a specific subsegment of the operation. So you're working with real business partners who have meaningful roles in the business,
Mm-hmm.
and working with them on their budgeting, forecasting, and basically trying to help them understand their business as a true key finance partner.
Got it. So
And
you're brought
yeah,
in almost like as a higher internal consultant, hired gun finance person to help them make sense of like what's going on. Is
yeah, exactly.
that
Or
fair?
I think part of it, at least from what my perspective, I don't know if others have, different experiences, but for me, it was a lot of these business partners, set budgets for what they're going to spend on these various projects, and you're kind of helping them along the way to make sure that they're truly going to spend that money and it's properly reinvested back into the business if they're not, or vice versa, if they're going to go over budget for certain projects. You're kind of keeping on track with different cadences to ensure that um, they're maximizing their project management skills.
So these FLDP programs at these large Fortune 500s, they're very competitive to get into. Can you tell me if you looked at other ones outside of the one you did in your sophomore summer, or were you like, hey, I really enjoyed my time there, and you kind of already had the connection there, so you decided I'm going to go there?
Yeah, I didn't look too deeply or
Mm-hmm.
draw my resumes at others. I did consider others that were out there. I just looked at other companies that had them.
Yep.
But I felt that when I had the offer, it was a company I liked. I thought they had a really good mission and good, pretty solid people, and it was a good package overall. So I didn't pursue anything else interview wise.
Yep. So
So I can't. Yeah.
did you when you had the offer, was it after your sophomore summer, or how did that work? Because I know you did the financial analyst role at a bank, the middle office role the following summer. So were you getting did you kind of like reach out and then they send you an offer, or did they have that offer open for that long?
Yeah, so I'd say it's actually this could be very specific or unique. I
Mm-hmm.
think the way it worked was they gave me a recommendation to apply for the program, I remember. So after that junior internship at the bank that I had, I basically had to go in, do I think maybe like a 2-hour test. And then right after that test, I guess I scored well enough and received an offer. So that was heading into my senior year.
What was that test like? Can you tell me more about that?
Yeah.
I've never heard of that.
Um, yeah, it was generally about basic business concepts, stuff you'd have in macroeconomics 101, those kind of general understanding how to read charts and make sense of general business info.
Like
I think
supply
there might have
demand
been,
type stuff.
yeah, kind of stuff like that. And then also just there was definitely a financial and accounting component as well.
Mm.
Just I think just making sure you understood the three statements, um, generally how uh, various expenses will impact three statements.
Did
Kind
you
of similar
did
to
you
the
prep a
intro
lot for
question.
this, knowing it was coming, or were you kind of like surprised and just managed to pass?
I think I reviewed some of my notes from various college courses because
Yeah.
that's kind of what I'd heard from others. It was all stuff that was actually pretty practical and stuff you'd been learning in school. Whereas sometimes you can go into things where they're less practical, less things you've learned in school and more on the job. So I
Hmm.
felt like I was well prepared and scored well enough, to receive an offer.
Great. So you kind of did that. It sounds like early in your senior year.
Yeah, I think it was the summer going into senior year.
Summer. Okay, summer going to senior year.
Yeah,
So you're
yeah,
able to enjoy your senior year at school, which is awesome.
Yeah, yeah. So I think having, the offer in hand made things easier,
Hmm.
going into the school year, but at the same time wasn't as heavily considering other roles or, maybe as driven to go into banking. Again, probably was really hard because like you said, it's kind of like you're missing the boat. By senior year, it's kind of too late.
Yeah, by senior year, if you haven't had a banking internship, it's really tough because there are kids that you're competing with that do have the internship that didn't get a return offer, maybe from a boutique investment banker, and so their work, at least the work they did over the summer, tends to be more relevant. They have like deal experience and stuff. So
Totally.
you're definitely fighting an uphill battle there. So I get it. So you enjoy your senior year, you kind of graduate, and then you start in this FLDP program. Do you feel like it was a good experience for you? Like you were there for a good 2 years. I'd love to hear just a little bit about like what it was like when you first started. Was it really tough and then it got kind of easy, or were you constantly learning, or was it, it was okay and you felt like, hey, I needed something else to challenge me, and that's why you kind of jumped?
Yeah. The only thing I would correct is I was only there for 1 year.
Oh, you're there for one
Um,
year. Okay.
yeah. So I was there for a rotation. And on the job, it was, I think, a little bit challenging at first because there wasn't a formal training to start off the program.
Oh, really?
It
That
was,
surprises me, even a large firm
yeah,
like that.
yeah.
Okay.
I was pretty surprised. There was training periodically. Every couple months we'd go to formal training, but
Got it. But you
it
like
was more
started day
so.
one and you had no clue what you're doing. You're just like here.
Yeah, they kind of just said, here's the role you're in. You're taking over for this guy who's, moving on to this next role. He'll teach you. So this guy taught me, the ins and outs of the day to day over the course of a few days, which was definitely helpful.
And
But at the same time, yeah,
were you like on one project, or is it, like you said, it's like a subdivision of one set of the company or one part of the company? Is that how I should think?
yeah. So it's more so of a subdivision of the company,
Got it. Okay.
and being a finance partner for that, and helping with a lot of the FP&A type work.
So you have somebody kind of handing it over to you over just a couple days.
Yeah, exactly. So I think from there, being a fresh out of school college kid, given a lot of pretty meaningful responsibility as opposed to just mundane, busy work was, I wouldn't say so much as a wake up call as it is, it was just a lot to take in at first, but I
Little,
didn't feel like it was
are you stressed?
over. I think, yeah, yeah, probably stressed in a way, just because there's so many nuances to understanding systems and terminology and um, just understanding the meaning of your role in the bigger picture. I think takes a little bit of time.
When you say systems, do you mean like the software that you guys would use to kind of do these
Yeah,
reports and stuff?
exactly. So a lot of steps in terms of how to run certain reports, understanding different cost center codes.
Is this like Salesforce type stuff or more like very proprietary software for the specific businesses?
Yeah, more. I would say more on the
Proprietary.
proprietary side, or
Okay.
things like an SAP.
Got it. Got it.
Yeah,
Okay. So
which are not
you're
as intuitive necessarily.
no, they're not.
Yeah,
I've seen some of them and I'm like, how that doesn't make any sense. Why do you have to do that? So you're in this program, sorry, for only about a little over a year, and you tell me when you kind of start thinking, hey, maybe this banking thing is interesting to me, and was it a couple months in? Was it 7 months in? What kind of made you start looking?
yeah. I think it was maybe a few months in. I'm working. My buddies are working. We're catching up and just talking about the stuff that we do day to day. And you kind of hear what other people are working on and kind of the paths that things lead down. And I think that's kind of where it opened my eyes in terms of really thinking about, what do I want to be doing, not just next year, but the next 5 years, 10 years from now,
Hmm.
what I see myself doing. And it was a lot of reflection and kind of looking at people at my company, who are there 5 years ahead of me, 10 years ahead of me, what they're doing. Is that the kind of role that I want to be in?
Hmm.
And so at that point, I think it was a few months in, I just started talking to a few of the older guys I knew from college, and who had made their ways in some of these careers, and trying to understand if banking would be something for me, or some of the other positions I was considering. I think I was open to consulting at the time as well. So really was just trying to understand what would be my next step. And
Do you,
so
do you feel like you didn't gain that perspective? Like, do you feel like the reality of actually being out of school and working kind of all of a sudden woke you up? Because it sounds like there was a little bit of floating. I mean, I was the same way, but in college, there's a little bit of like just floating through. And then like, boom, you're in the job and you're like, wait a second, is this what I want to do for the rest of my life? There's nothing stopping you from doing these conversations earlier, right?
No, no, nothing at all. And that's why I'd kind of advise anybody who's curious about anything, not just banking, but to
Mm-hmm.
have conversations early, talk to as many people as they can, and really just learn as much as they can about a role or a career as early as they can on to save themselves time down the road
Yeah.
and to not make the switch as difficult as it really can be.
Yeah. I mentor, I have the show Monkey to Millions. I don't know if you've heard of it, but I'm basically mentoring 4 kids in college. Trying to break into careers in mostly banking.
Yeah,
And one of my mentees, she's at Fordham, and she's like been aggressively reaching out, like networking with people, and people are just like shocked because she's a freshman, but she already has like an internship lined up. She's set. Um,
yeah,
but it's just all about like putting yourself out there. And oftentimes when you're that young, it's really intimidating, and you don't feel comfortable. You don't, because you don't even know the lingo. So
totally. I totally get that. And
yeah.
yeah, I definitely regret not pursuing this earlier, maybe going to more information sessions on campus when they had them.
Yeah, but you gotta
Yeah,
mature too, right? I mean, it's a maturation process. Don't beat yourself up over it. You ended up at a great FLDP program, so
yeah, yeah,
you're
no,
there,
definitely.
and you're learning, but you're still kind of, now you're kind of doing a little bit more of a broad search, consulting, banking, and so what kind of pointed you to banking? There's a couple friends that were like really pushing you towards that, or what do you think kind of set, or were you applying to consulting as well? Like what made up your mind?
I was applying to both. I thought just the idea of working on a variety of different companies or deals or something like that was more interesting than just working at one
Hmm.
and being, kind of more of an internal uh, cog in the wheel. I kind of felt like I was being.
Yep.
I felt like having more of a high level view, looking at a full company or a full deal was something that was more attractive to me. So just reading, a lot of the resources online and trying to really talk to others who are in each of these fields to understand what their day to day was like. Really just kind of opened this
This is like networking 101. You just started talking to everybody.
totally.
Okay.
Someone started talking to one of your friends who knows someone who's in this career at this firm. Hey, you should reach out to them. They're happy to talk to you. So you just got to keep talking to people, and that's what I did. I just kept talking to people. It really shocked me at how open people are to just talking, answering questions, because quite frankly, they probably had the same questions a couple years earlier.
What
And
types of
so people
questions
put,
were you asking like in these info sessions? Was it mostly over
I
the
think,
phone and stuff?
yeah, mostly over the phone,
Hmm.
and just learning about what people's day to day is like, what they kind of recommend doing if, to get into these firms. I mean, a lot of it is these people got into these firms from undergrad or maybe some sort of other exit opportunity down the road. So the position I was in was definitely unique, but it really was just understanding the day to day and kind of affirming for myself
I'm curious
what I
what
could
they
see myself
said.
doing.
I'm curious what they said to you. I mean, they probably were. I'm guessing they were advising you like to look at lateral openings. Is that correct? Like just,
Um,
or were they saying something because you're coming from an FLDP program, like you said, it's not traditional to go FLDP, then all of a sudden go banking. So what was their advice to you?
um, yeah, I don't know if it was so much as lateral as it was, just to make the move when I could, just try to find any opening and convince someone that you have the technical skills to,
Hmm.
come in day one. You've done some self learning on your own, where you're not going to be, thrown in and not have any clue what the lingo is or
Right.
what a deal is, and just really to familiarize myself with the specifics of banking and the kind of roles that I'd be applying for.
Okay. So you start doing a ton of info sessions, lots of calls. And then what kind of was the break? Or were you applying online, I assume, at the same time?
A few times, yeah, but
But that's like a black
I'm,
hole.
yeah, I think those are black holes.
Yeah.
Um, I think anytime I had traction anywhere was um, either inbounds, from LinkedIn, or really just when I had my my true success was just reaching out to my alumni network, and there happened to be someone leaving a firm, going to get their MBA, and that kind of opened the door to
Hmm.
a position being open. And having that person kind of help me understand what the role was and how to prepare, I think really was beneficial. And
So kind of like a mentor
then,
from an alum, basically.
yeah, pretty much. I mean, someone who had been through the process, could really help. Um, Understood that my background wasn't necessarily a lateral move into the position, but pointed me to the right resources to prepare and show myself well. At the
So
interview stage.
did the bank say to you kind of during the process, like you would start as a first year analyst? Was there any communication about that of where you would start out?
I think it was pretty clear from day one.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah. When you're 6 months out of college, I don't think there's any. I could be wrong, but I doubt there's much room for any leverage.
Do you remember how many people you ended up talking to on around approximately?
I don't know, but definitely in double digits. No,
Hmm.
I mean you're just even something that's more informal than formally reaching out to somebody.
It sounds
When
like you were really sticking to your alumni because they're pretty strong and close knit.
Yeah, and I'd say socially, I think having some of those conversations with people in an informal setting also is always beneficial because they'll put you in touch with the next person who can really um, help you out.
Great. So you started and you got promoted pretty fast. So tell me a little bit about what it was like to drink from the fire hose again.
Yeah, I'd say it was the same type of thing I talked about earlier. Kind of thrown in, expected to pick up how models work and um, the various nuances of the specific part of banking I was in and deals. So really, I think I was just so hungry and so happy that I made the switch. That everything was just me just trying to absorb as much as I could, and I was really hungry from day one. So
Mhm. Did you
um,
have
just
somebody at the firm that helped you like get up to speed faster? Was there another analyst or another associate that kind of like spent a lot of time with you, or was it just like spread out a bit depending on the deal team?
I would say definitely a lot more of the junior people, the analysts, associates,
Hmm.
but even people at more senior levels who are just good people. They want to see the best in the team. They make a good personal connection with you from day one. So it really depends, I guess, on the firm. But for me, it was a variety of people that really helped me grow and develop, and basically was able to transform me into being a pretty value add member of the team
That's
early
awesome.
on.
Yeah, it sounds like within a year you got like a lot of people nowadays, we get the fast track to promotion, trying to hold on to you. You see here, I think a lot of analysts now are just jumping ship after 1 or 2 years. And so the banks are kind of giving that accelerated promote. Did you ever consider staying on for an extended period of time or making banking your full-time career? Or you kind of always had that eye towards the buy side?
Yeah, no, I mean, I think there's definitely good careers to be made. So it wasn't out of the question. I think when buy side opportunities presented themselves, it just was a more attractive path. Um, Especially after talking to more and more people. Like I said, it doesn't really stop once you just get into the one career. You think you have your eye, and as you talk to more people, you kind of see what they're doing. You learn about other opportunities, and
So you
I
didn't
thought
stop.
the
You
buy
didn't
side.
stop now. You slowed down the networking, but you never really stopped fully.
Yeah, no, I think generally, if you're a social person, you're just going to meet people naturally.
Hmm.
Not necessarily me reaching out to people on LinkedIn cold and trying to network that way. It's just more so talking to other people, meeting friends of friends, and just kind of hearing what they're doing, seeing that the buy side was something that would be a good opportunity for me.
And so do you mind sharing kind of do you mind talking a little bit about like comp or ranges in terms of what you saw at the FLDP and then what you saw like the pay bump you saw in banking, assuming there was a bump?
Yeah, um, definitely the FLDP at starting out was well in their sub 100s all in.
Hmm.
There was like some sort of overtime component that helped initially, but what even some of the older people who had graduated through the program complained about was that actually they were making sometimes less than what they did in the program.
Oh,
Being that
wow.
third person. Yeah, because of the overtime components.
Oh, so like when you're in the FLDP, you get like overtime kind of bonus of some sort to true you up or whatever. And then once you get out of that program, you can make less money. I didn't know that.
Yeah, you could. I mean, it all depends if someone was doing,
Of
a
course,
lot of
a lot of
overtime or not.
overtime. Yeah.
But
Um,
yeah.
and,
So then the banking jump was, in the 100+ range all in.
mhm.
This wasn't any sort of major big bulge bracket bank, so I think you can understand where the comp was there.
Yep.
I think there's enough resources. Then,
Hmm.
as you progress up the ranks at a bank, the comp obviously jumps more and more. And then typical buy side um, entry level range, I think, was pretty competitive.
Great. And so were you, when you were looking at buy side opportunities, given that you weren't in like an elite boutique or a bulge bracket bank or, whatever, how did you go about thinking it? Were you being more proactive about reaching out to recruiters? How did you kind of structure that whole process? Because
Yeah,
you were there for, you were at the bank for almost 3 years.
yeah. So I think to put it one way is really just being proactive in terms of going after recruiters, being not at a place that was any sort of on-cycle recruiting or
Mhm.
heavily targeted by the major recruiting firms. Really just continuing to network, find where opportunities were. It wasn't any sort of thing where you see in a lot of the buy side opportunities where analysts, kind of know where they're going within a year of starting the analyst program at a big bank.
Yeah.
So it's about being proactive on LinkedIn and networking with others, really,
Were you
whether it's
worried that,
whatever city you're in.
were you ever worried that like the associate promote might actually hurt you in this buy side recruiting?
I think that did weigh on in my head a little bit.
Mhm.
Just
I always
maybe,
wonder about that because you can almost, it's almost like you almost get to like the recruiters almost see you as like, oh, he's done, he's staying in banking, So
yeah,
curious,
yeah. I think that could be a
yeah,
factor.
I mean, obviously it worked out for you, but were you able to, so like the job that you ended up getting, was it through a recruiter?
No, it actually wasn't.
Wasn't. Okay. So, but
Um,
they did get you some looks.
definitely got some looks.
Okay.
Was starting to make traction, and then this was more of a, I guess, yeah, a networking type opportunity that came up.
Okay, great. So your network comes through again.
Yeah,
That's awesome.
it's
Okay.
it's definitely not any sort of consistent track or plan that someone could do.
Hmm.
But yeah, I guess any advice I would have would be just talking to people always helps, and kind of helping you figure out what you want to do. And you never know who put you in touch with, a certain role or another person.
And so looking back, before we call it, looking back on kind of your whole career so far, is there anything you would tell your younger self maybe in college to do differently?
Leaving college,
What's that?
I think just early on in college, I wish I had you know really thought a lot more about my career, and not just taking something because it seemed okay. I think the skills I learned from the first program were really beneficial, especially having inside corporate experience that a lot
Mhm.
of people in banking might not necessarily have and understand. But at the same time, definitely, wish I'd gotten into my path a lot sooner. So there's, always trade-offs, always things you might have done differently. But again, I'm happy today and really value the skill set that I have from my different experiences.
For sure, man. Well, listen, I really appreciate you taking the time for chatting with me.
Yeah, sounds good.
And thanks to you, my listeners at Wall Street Oasis. If you have any suggestions whatsoever, please don't hesitate to send them my way, Patrick at wallstreetoasis.com. And until next time.